Have you ever had that moment where you know exactly what you want to say? You can feel it inside you. And then when it's time to speak, your mind goes kind of blank and you start grabbing for words like you're trying to catch something slippery with wet hands. And afterward, you think, why did I sound like that? Why did I freeze? Why did I suddenly forget simple words? I definitely know. If that sounds familiar, I just want you to hear this right away. It does not mean you are bad at English. It does not mean you are slow. It usually means you care, and you're trying so hard to do it right that your brain switches into protection mode instead of communication mode. And when people feel stuck like that, they often look for a big solution, a perfect course, a perfect method, some powerful trick that will change everything overnight. But what I've seen again and again with real adults living real lives is that the biggest changes almost always come from quiet habits, small, gentle things you do consistently, things that don't look impressive, things that no one claps for. But over time, they change your relationship with English. They change your confidence. They change what comes out of your mouth when you're tired, busy, stressed, or put on the spot. I want to talk about those quiet habits today, not in a strict way, not like a self-improvement lecture, more like I'm sitting next to you while you're driving or walking or making dinner, and I'm reminding you of what actually helps when you want to speak more naturally. Because speaking is not just vocabulary and grammar. Speaking is your nervous system. Speaking is trust. Speaking is letting yourself be a real person in a language that sometimes makes you feel like you're back in school again. And if you enjoy this calm, supportive style, the kind that helps you relax, while your English gets stronger, you can subscribe to the channel. No pressure at all, just if you want more episodes like this in your life, like a steady companion that helps you keep going. When I say quiet habits, I mean things that are almost invisible from the outside. For example, the habit of pausing without panicking. That one thing alone can change everything. Most people think fluency means fast, but in real life, fluent speakers pause all the time. They pause to think, to choose a word, to be polite, to make a point, to breathe. The difference is, they don't apologize for it in their head. They don't see the pause as failure. They see it as normal. So one quiet habit you can build is letting pause exist without filling it with stress. Next time you're speaking and you feel the urge to rush because silence feels dangerous, try this instead. Let your face stay calm. Let your shoulders stay down. And let the pause happen. Even 1 second. That tiny moment teaches your brain, I am safe. I don't have to sprint. I've watched so many adults change just by doing that. People who used to speak in these tight, fast bursts, almost like they were trying to get through English as quickly as possible, like it was something to survive. And once they let pauses be normal, their English sounded more confident, even when they made mistakes. Because confidence is not perfect English. Confidence is comfort. It's the feeling that you're allowed to take up space while you speak. Another quiet habit that changes everything over time is repeating phrases you like out loud in your own life and not in a dramatic way, not as homework. More like you hear a phrase and you think, I like that. That sounds natural. That sounds like something I wish I could say. And then you quietly adopt it. You try it the next day. Maybe you say it in the shower. Maybe you say it while you're making coffee. Maybe you say it while you're driving. and then you use it once in a real conversation, even if your voice shakes a little. It can be something small, like that makes sense, or I'm not totally sure, but I think, or give me a second, or let me think about how to say this. These phrases are powerful because they buy you time. They organize your thoughts. They help you sound natural even when you are thinking. And over time, you start building a personal collection of phrases that fit you. Not the phrases from a textbook that feel stiff in your mouth, but phrases that feel like you. This is also how native speakers talk, by the way. We don't invent brand new sentences from scratch every time. We lean on familiar patterns. We use little blocks of language that we've heard 1,000 times. That's why you can feel like you know a lot of English, but when you speak, it feels like you're trying to build a house out of tiny grains of sand. Quiet habits help you collect bricks instead. Now, let's talk about one of the biggest hidden problems that blocks speaking: translating in your head. And I want to be very gentle here because translating is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a normal stage. It's what your brain does when it's trying to help you. But translating word by word is exhausting. It takes too long. And it makes you feel like you're always behind the conversation, like everyone is running and you're tying your shoes. So here's a quiet habit that helps. When you're listening to English, don't only ask, "What does this mean?" Also ask, "What is the feeling of this? What is the situation? What is the intention? Is it friendly? Is it formal? Is it a complaint? Is it a soft suggestion?" When you train your brain to understand the intention, your speaking gets easier because you start responding to meaning, not to words. Think about a work meeting, for example. Someone says, "I'm not sure that's the best approach." If you translate that word by word, you might get stuck. But if you understand the intention, you hear, "I disagree," but politely, and then you can respond with your own polite disagreement. Something like, "I see what you mean." Another option might be, or, "That's a fair point. I was thinking." See how that works. You're not translating, you're participating. And participation is the real goal, not perfection. Participation. Another quiet habit is practicing tiny bits of speaking in low pressure moments. People often wait for the perfect time to practice speaking. They think, "I'll practice when I have an hour. I'll practice when I'm not tired. I'll practice when I feel confident." But life is messy, and the truth is, most speaking in real life happens when you're not ready. When you're walking into the office and someone says, "Hey, how was your weekend?" When you're ordering food and the person behind the counter is moving fast. When you're on a video call and someone suddenly asks, "What do you think?" That's real speaking. It's not planned. So a quiet habit is creating tiny moments where you speak on purpose, but with no audience and no pressure. You can do it while you're doing something else. While you're brushing your teeth, you say a few sentences about your day. While you're cooking, you explain what you're doing as if someone is watching. Nothing fancy, just, "I'm chopping onions. I'm going to make pasta." I always forget how long this takes. The goal is not impressive vocabulary. The goal is to make speaking feel normal in your mouth, like a physical habit, because speaking is physical. It's your tongue and your breath and your rhythm. And the part needs repetition. I want to say something that a lot of adults need to hear. You do not need to feel confident before you speak. Speaking is often what creates confidence. People think confidence comes first and then speaking becomes easy. But usually it's the opposite. You speak while you're a little nervous. You survive it. You realize it wasn't as bad as your brain predicted. And then confidence grows quietly in the background. And yes, your brain will predict disaster. That's what it does. Especially if you're a thoughtful person. Especially if you have high standards. Especially if you've had moments in the past where you felt embarrassed. Your brain remembers that. It tries to protect you from feeling that again. So it says, don't speak unless it's perfect. Don't speak unless you're sure. Don't speak unless you can say it like a native speaker. But that rule is impossible, and it's also unnecessary. Most people you talk to do not need perfect English. They need your message. They need your presence. They need a human connection. One quiet habit that changes everything is learning to recover smoothly when you make a mistake. Because mistakes are not the real problem. The real problem is the story you tell yourself after the mistake. If you make a mistake and you think, I'm terrible, I sounded stupid, I should stop talking, then your body tightens. Your voice changes. You start monitoring every word. You become less fluent. Not because you suddenly forgot English, but because you're now afraid of English. So instead, build the habit of gentle recovery. You make a mistake and you keep going. Or you correct it simply and keep going. No drama, no apology speech, just a small adjustment. Like yesterday I went to the store and then you continue. That small moment trains your brain to stay in communication mode. It teaches you mistakes are normal and I can still be respected. I've had learners tell me they feel like they need to be perfect because they're adults, because they're professionals, because they're intelligent, because in their own language, they're articulate, funny, sharp. And in English, they feel smaller. That feeling is real and it can be painful. But here's what I want you to remember. You are not less intelligent in English. You are temporarily less fluent. That's it. Your intelligence is still there. Your personality is still there. And one of the quiet habits that brings it back is letting your real personality show even with simple language. You don't need advanced vocabulary to be warm. You don't need perfect grammar to be clear. You can be yourself with simple sentences. You can say, I'm really excited about this. I'm a little worried, honestly. I don't love that idea. I need some time to think. These are normal human sentences, and the more you allow yourself to speak like a real person instead of trying to perform like a perfect speaker, the more natural you become. Let's talk about another quiet habit. Listening deeply, not widely. A lot of people listen to a huge amount of English, which is great, but their listening is scattered. 10 minutes of this, 5 minutes of that. A random video, a random podcast, different accents, different topics, different speeds. And that can help your comprehension, but it doesn't always help your speaking. A quiet habit that helps speaking is choosing one or two voices you like and sticking with them for a while. Not forever, just long enough that your brain starts to predict the rhythm and the common phrases. It becomes familiar. Your nervous system relaxes. And then those phrases start appearing in your own speech. This is why people sometimes notice they start talking a little like someone they've been listening to a lot. Not in a fake way, just in a natural way. Your brain is copying patterns. That's how humans learn language. It's normal, it's beautiful. And while we're here, let's talk about the habit of noticing instead of judging. This is huge for people who overthink, because overthinking is not really thinking. Overthinking is worry wearing a thinking costume. It feels like you're being responsible, like you're preparing, but often it's just fear repeating itself. So try this. After a conversation in English, instead of replaying everything you said and looking for mistakes, just notice a few things neutrally. You might notice, I stayed in the conversation even when I didn't know a word. Or, I asked a question and the other person answered easily. Or I used that phrase I practiced and it worked. Or I got stuck, but I recovered. That's it. You're training your brain to see progress. Because if your brain only collects evidence of failure, then speaking will always feel dangerous. But if your brain starts collecting evidence of survival and success, even small success, your confidence grows. And I want to talk about something that no one says enough. And it is normal to feel different in English. Your voice might sound different. Your humor might not come out the same way. Your timing might be different, and that can make you feel like you're not fully yourself. But the quiet habit is continuing anyway, continuing to show up in English long enough that a second version of you starts to develop. Not a fake version, just another side of you. It takes time, it takes repetition, it takes patience. Think about how you are with close friends in your own language. You probably don't speak in perfect sentences. You interrupt yourself. You change direction. You say, you know what I mean. You say, wait, let me start over. You laugh. You use simple words to express deep things. That's real speaking. So in English, give yourself permission to be messy in the same way. You're allowed to restart a sentence. You're allowed to simplify. You're allowed to say, I'm trying to explain this clearly, but it's a little hard. People understand that, and honestly, it often makes people more patient and more connected to you because it's human. Another quiet habit that changes everything is learning to ask for what you need in the moment. A lot of adults think they have to handle everything alone. Like, if I ask someone to repeat, I look weak. If I ask someone to slow down, I look incompetent. But in real life, people ask for clarity all the time, even native speakers. We say things like, sorry, can you say that again? Or, what do you mean by that? Or, I didn't catch the last part. Or, can you slow down a bit? That's normal. And when you use these phrases calmly, you look confident. You look like someone who knows how to communicate. At work, this is especially important. Imagine you're in a meeting and someone explains something quickly. You miss a detail. You pretend you understood. Now you're stressed. You're trying to guess what they said. You're no longer present. The quiet habit is stopping that cycle early. You say, just to make sure I understood, you mean. And you repeat what you think you heard. This does two things. It confirms information, and it gives you speaking practice in a professional way. It's a win-win. Now I want to talk about the habit of choosing clarity over complexity. Many adults think they need to speak with advanced words to sound smart. So they reach for a fancy word, and then they get stuck. Or the sentence becomes heavy, or they lose the point. Clarity is more impressive than complexity. Clear English sounds confident. Clear English sounds natural. Clear English helps you connect. So when you speak, aim for the simplest words that carry your meaning. If you know a more advanced word, great, use it. But don't force it. Don't reach for it like it's the only way to be respected. The fastest way to sound more fluent is to get comfortable using simple structures smoothly, because smooth, simple English is real fluency. And there's another quiet habit connected to that. Finishing your thought. Even if your grammar is not perfect, even if you have to take a small detour, many people start a sentence, then panic, then stop. They abandon the thought because they can't say it perfectly. Over time, this trains your brain to give up. So instead, practice finishing. If you start, try to reach the end, even with simple words. If you need to change the sentence halfway, do it. If you need to say, basically what I mean is, and then say it more simply, do that. Finishing your thought builds trust in yourself. Let me give you a very real example. You're talking with a coworker and you want to say something like, I think the timeline is unrealistic because we don't have enough resources and we're underestimating the testing phase. Maybe that feels like a lot. So you start and then you freeze. Instead, you can simplify in the moment. You can say, I'm a little concerned about the timeline. I think we might need more time, especially for testing. That is clear. That is professional. And you finished your thought. That matters. Now let's talk about the habit of speaking with your body relaxed. This sounds small, but it's huge. When you're nervous, your body tightens. Your breathing gets shallow, your throat gets tight, your voice gets higher or quieter. And then speaking feels physically harder. Your brain thinks, this is hard, so this must be dangerous. And the cycle continues. So a quiet habit is checking your body before you speak, just for 1 second. Drop your shoulders, unclench your jaw, take a slow breath, not a dramatic breath, just a normal, steady breath, and then speak on the exhale. This helps your voice sound calmer, and it helps your brain feel safer. Over time, this becomes automatic. You become the kind of person who can speak even when nervous, because your body knows what to do. And here's something I love to remind people. Fluency is not a permanent state. It changes day to day. Some days you feel smooth, some days you feel blocked. This is normal. If you slept badly, if you're stressed, if you're hungry, if you're in a rush, if you're talking about a topic you don't usually talk about, your fluency can drop. That happens to everyone. Even native speakers have days when they can't find words. So a quiet habit is not panicking on the bad days. The bad days are not proof you're not improving. They are just part of the process. If you want something practical that is also quiet and powerful, try building the habit of telling short stories from your own life. Real life stories are the core of conversation. What did you do this weekend? How was your trip? What happened at work? And these stories repeat. Your weekend story is similar every week. Your work update is similar. Your daily routine is similar, so you can practice these stories until they feel easy. And I don't mean memorizing a speech, I mean getting comfortable with the basic flow, beginning, middle, end. Something like, on Saturday, I met a friend for coffee. We talked for a while, then I ran some errands. On Sunday, I stayed home and relaxed. Nothing special, but it was nice. That kind of speaking makes you feel stable. And when you feel stable, you take more risks. You try new words. You joke, you ask questions. You become more yourself. And another quiet habit is asking more questions than you think you need to. This helps in two ways. First, it takes pressure off you to talk nonstop. Conversation is not a performance. You don't have to carry the whole thing. Second, questions give you structure. They keep the conversation moving, and they help you stay connected even when your speaking feels limited. You can ask simple questions. How about you? What do you think? How did that go? What was that like? Are you enjoying it? Even those small questions make you a good conversational partner. And when you're a good partner, you feel less judged. Because you're not being evaluated, you're connecting. Now, I want to touch something tender. The fear of sounding stupid. This fear is so common, and it's heavy. Adults carry it quietly. They may not say it out loud, but it shows in the way they avoid speaking, or they keep their sentences short, or they laugh nervously, or they say, "Sorry, my English is bad," before they even begin. And that apology is not really about English. It's about protecting your pride. It's about trying to lower expectations so you don't get hurt. But here's the truth. Most people are not thinking you're stupid. They're thinking, oh, this person is speaking in another language, and they might even be impressed. And the people who judge you for an accent or a mistake are not people you need to perform for. I know that's easy to say and harder to feel, but it's still true. So the quiet habit here is letting yourself be seen as a learner of life, not as someone who must be perfect. Let your accent exist. Let your mistakes exist. Your message matters more. Your warmth matters more. Your effort matters more. Over time, the fear gets quieter, not because it disappears, but because your confidence grows around it. And speaking of accents, let me say this clearly. An accent is not a problem. An accent is a sign of a life. It means you have history. It means you have lived in more than one sound system. What matters is being understandable and feeling comfortable. You do not need to erase yourself to speak English well. Another quiet habit is giving yourself credit in real time. This might sound cheesy, but it works. When you finish a conversation in English, even a small one, take a moment and internally say, "Good job," or "I did it," or "I handled that." Not because it was perfect, but because you showed up. Adults are not used to giving themselves credit. They only focus on what went wrong. But your brain learns from what you pay attention to. If you only pay attention to errors, your brain learns fear. If you pay attention to success, your brain learns confidence. Now let's talk about consistency in a gentle way. People think consistency means doing a lot every day. But the quiet habits I'm talking about are small enough that you can do them even on busy days. You can listen to a familiar voice while you commute. You can repeat a few phrases while you make tea. You can tell a short story to yourself while you shower. You can practice one calm pause in a real conversation. Small things, but done again and again, they change your default settings. It's like turning a ship. You don't turn it with one big movement. You turn it with small adjustments. And one day you look back and realize you're going in a totally different direction. I also want to mention the habit of allowing yourself to speak imperfectly with people you trust. If you have even one person in your life who feels safe, a friend, a coworker, a partner, someone in an online community, practice speaking a little more with them. Tell them, I'm working on feeling more comfortable speaking, so I might be slower sometimes. Most people respond kindly to that, and when you have a safe space, your brain learns that speaking is not a threat. And if you don't have that person, you can still create safety through repetition with yourself. Your brain does not fully separate imagined speaking from real speaking. When you speak out loud, alone, you are still training the system. You're still building the habit. You're still teaching your mouth and your breath and your rhythm. So don't underestimate the power of private practice. Another quiet habit that changes everything is letting go of the idea that you need to sound like someone else. So many adults pick one perfect model in their head. A coworker who speaks fast, a confident presenter, a native speaker with a certain personality. And they try to copy that energy. But you don't need to become that person. You need to become you in English. If you are naturally thoughtful and calm, you can speak calmly in English. If you are naturally funny, your humor will come, maybe slowly, but it will come. If you are naturally direct, you can be direct in a polite way. The goal is not to perform a new identity. The goal is to express your real identity with the language you have right now, and then expand it over time. And this brings me to one of my favorite quiet habits: saying more with less. When you feel blocked, you might try to force a complex sentence, and it collapses. Instead, say one simple sentence, then another, then another. Build your message like stepping stones. For example, if you want to explain a problem at work, you can say, "We have an issue with the schedule. The main problem is the supplier. They are delayed. That will affect delivery. We might need a backup plan." That is strong communication. That is fluency. It's not fancy, but it works. And because it works, you feel better. And because you feel better, you speak more. Over time, those simple sentences start connecting more smoothly. Your brain starts adding little connectors like "so," because that's why, actually, by the way. But it happens naturally. You don't have to force it. Now, I want to talk about time, real time, the long game, because the title today is about habits that change everything over time. And I really mean time. Most adults underestimate how much progress they can make in 6 months, a year, 2 years, if they stop restarting. If you keep stopping and starting, your confidence resets. Your relationship with English stays fragile. But if you stay gently connected to English, even in small ways, you build something solid. I've seen people who felt stuck for years, not because they weren't smart, but because their practice was intense and then nothing, intense and then nothing. They would study hard, get overwhelmed, feel disappointed, and stop. Then later they would start again, already tired and already judging themselves. Quiet habits solve this because they are sustainable. You can do them even when life is busy. You can do them without burning out. And when you build a sustainable relationship with English, something really beautiful happens. You stop treating English like a test and you start treating it like a tool. Like a part of your life, like something you live with, not something you pass or fail. So if you want to choose just one quiet habit to start today, choose the one that lowers pressure, the one that makes speaking feel safer. For some people, that is practicing pauses. For some, it's collecting a few favorite phrases. For some, it's telling short stories. For some, it's asking more questions. For some, it's speaking out loud alone for 2 minutes a day. The best habit is the one you will actually do. And if you miss a day or a week, you don't punish yourself. You just come back quietly, gently, because this is not about being strict. This is about becoming free. I want you to imagine yourself a few months from now. Not perfect. Not suddenly speaking like a movie character, just calmer, more present, more willing to speak even when you're not sure, more able to recover, more able to participate. And imagine how that would feel at work when someone asks your opinion and you can answer without your heart racing so much. Imagine how that would feel when traveling, when you can ask for what you need without rehearsing for 10 minutes in your head. Imagine how that would feel socially, when you can join a conversation and not disappear inside your own thoughts. That version of you is built through quiet habits. Not loud motivation, not pressure, not shame, quiet repetition, quiet courage. So the next time you're about to speak and you feel that familiar tightness, try to soften. Remind yourself, I don't need perfect. I need connection. Take one calm breath. Start with one simple sentence. Pause if you need to. Use a phrase you trust and keep going. That's it. That is how everything changes. Not all at once, but over time in a way that is so steady and so real that one day you realize you're not the same person you were before. And you know what I love about that? It's not just that your English improves, it's that you start trusting yourself again. You stop seeing your mind going blank as a personal failure. You see it as a moment you can move through. You stop thinking of speaking as a performance. You start thinking of it as a relationship with the person in front of you and with yourself. So keep it quiet. Keep it gentle. Keep it consistent. Let small habits do the heavy lifting and let time work for you, not against you.